Hello, my name is Jasmien Pajiji, and I will be explaining the main menu code and the level select menu code. So to start with, in our main menu code, we have three main functions. So as you can see, we have our first ready function, which basically calls our background to start playing. So this is because our background for the game is an animation that continuously loops. So we call it at the start to immediately trigger the animation effect. Next, for our next function, we have the onStart pressed. So this will basically change the scene to the epilogue, which is our gives players the context of our game. So this is basically the function for our start button. So moving on to our onExit pressed, that as you can see will lead to the quit. So this basically means that if the player chooses to exit the game, then the window and the game will be immediately closed. So moving on to our level select menu, as you can see, we first reference the nodes that is in our scene. So we have our button nodes, our color X, and our sprite 2D. So to give more context, each button in our level select scene has four main layers. So we have the level completed, we have our level locked, we have our button, and the lock overlays. So the level completed is basically the green button that you see that has a check mark in it. And then for the level locked, this is basically a red button that will tell the users that they have not completed the level yet. And then we also have our buttons. These are the main functions or the main objects that the players will be using to access the level scenes. And then we also have our lock overlays on top of the buttons to indicate that they have not unlocked that level yet. So moving on to our ready function, as you can see, we have our button grab focus. Button grab focus basically tells us that the button will be enabled so that we can click or interact with it basically. And then moving on, for each level we have similar codes that basically focuses on the visualization of the button. So as you can see, we have our first if statement. If the level is completed, then the level locked, so the red button, and the lock, which is the image icon, will be disabled or will not be visible anymore. And if level 1 is not completed, then the lock will be visible and the red background or the red button will be visible. So this basically means that if you have completed a level, then the button will turn green and the red overlays will be invisible. And if you have not completed a level, then that basically means that the button will stay red and it will also have the lock visible to indicate that you have not completed or have not had access to those buttons yet. So moving on, level 2 has the same code, but it's based on if you have completed level 2 or not yet. And then level 3 is based on if you have completed level 3 or not yet. And then moving on to our next function, we have the onButton pressed. So onButton pressed is the function for our first button or for our level 1 button, which basically has the if statement of level core level 1 completed equals false. Then you change the scene to our level 1 scene. So this basically means that if you press our level 1 button, then it will end. You have not yet completed the button or have not yet completed the level, then it will load the scene when you press the button. Then next we have our on button to press. This is similar to the first button, but it is determined on if you have completed the level 1 level. So if you've completed the level 1, so here it's based on if you have not completed level 1, and then here it's based on if you have completed level 1. So as you can see, our level core current level will change to level 2, and then they will load the scene of level 2. And then next is function on button tree press. So if you have pressed the button tree or the level 3 button, then it will check if you have completed level 2. So if you have completed level 2, then it will change your current level to level 3, and it will also change your scene to the level 3 scene. So to summarize, this basically these buttons are the functions that will determine if you have unlocked or if you have not yet unlocked the scene, and if you have, then it will load you to that specific level that you just unlocked. And here, this block of code is basically for the visuals of the button. It basically checks, or it tells you if you've passed the level with a green button, and if you have not, it turns to red with a lock symbol. And to summarize our main menu script, we also have our background animation that plays at the start, and then we have our two buttons, which is the start button and the exit button. If you start the button, then that will trigger the game to load, and if you have exited, if you have pressed the exit button, then that means that the game will close and the window will be also closed. So that is all for my code explanation. Thank you.
Good day, sir. I'm Yasmien Maali, and for my code, I basically made the start and the end of the game, which have about the same structure. So I'll begin explaining the start. So of course, just like for everything else, I attached the code to its respective node 2D. Then I made an object of the thought bubble dialog animation. And then I made a function so that once you press the start button, the dialog automatically plays. I also made sure that the mail only appears once the animation finishes. And then when you press the button of the letter, it changes the scene to the letter, which I'll be explaining now. So for the letter, again, I attached it to the node 2D, and it has only one function, which is the exit button. So when you press the X button on the upper right side, it leads you to another scene, which beckons you to begin. So here, I made an object of my animation for the thought bubble, and then once the player goes to this scene, the animation plays. So that's basically it for the start. So again, what happens is once you click the start button, the dialog will play, and then a letter will appear, which has the instructions, and then you exit it, and then the character beckons you to play, and then it leads you to the level select page. And then once you finish all of the levels, of course, there will be an ending scene, which I'll explain now. So this is about the same structure. So again, I attached the script to the node 2D. I made an object of the animation, and once you finish all the levels, the dialog automatically plays, thanking you for the work you've done. and then the letter will of course appear once the animation finishes, and then it leads you to the letter once you click the letter button. So for that letter, it has the function to lead you to the last scene if you click the X button, which I'll show you right now. So here again, I made an animation object so that when you enter that scene, the dialogue automatically plays. So that's it. So again, in the ending scene, once you finish all of the levels, you'll be greeted with a dialogue from the character, and after that, a letter will appear. And when you click that, you can read the ending letter, exit it, and then the character will bid you goodbye.
I am Maria Beatricio, and these are one of my contributions in our game project. So, one of my major contributions is the flood in our game. So, as you can see, this is the script. So, this script extends to the node 2D of this scene, which is this one, and it creates an array of named different flood variations with the named F1, F2, F3, F4 with a dollar sign. So this dollar sign actually means that this F1, F2, F3, and F4 are child nodes of a specific node and is under the script. So this variations or this array is actually this one. So, if hindi natin titingnan yung flood, if i-close natin yung visibility ng flood, ganito yung itsura ng map. However, if papakita natin, ganun siya. So, what are the F1, F2, F3, F4 if ganun lang naman? F1, F2, F3, and F4 are different variations of the flood itself. So, if we will toggle the visibility, we will turn off the visibility of F4. As you can see, iba siya. And basically, ganun. So, those variations are the intensity of the flood in the island. So, ganun siya. So the first function for this is to set the visibility of this array into false, meaning that when the game has started or the level has started, di natin makikita yung flood. And then the second function is basically just the sequence of the flood. So after the timer runs out, a second after, the first variation or the F1 of the flood will appear. So how do we know that it is the first variation? Kasi our format is index then timer. So since array nga to, the first index, which is 0, will be the F1. And so on and so forth. So after a second, the next index will appear, and so on and so forth. So that is the sequence of the flood. The next function will be the condition for it to appear in a certain time. Since sequence lang to, it doesn't say na, oh, it will appear ganito. Ito ang nagsasabi na if the index is a specific index number and the index is less than the flood variations number size, then yung visibility ng flood or ng tile map will be true. or makikita siya. So, ganun siya. And then this one, this just basically says the timer to the array tree to time out. So that is all for the flood of this project.
Um, Good day, sir. Today I will be talking about the scripts that I have contributed on making the game flood controlled and how it works. So this first script is called drag and drop. This script is for the movable crates and defines how crates behave when the player interacts with them. It extends to a static body 2D and gives each crate the ability to be dragged and snapped to grid cells. So it has many variables, including dragging, which tracks whether the crate is currently being moved, the drag offset, and last valid position. That helps managing the positions. Then we have the occupied cells. It is a static dictionary shared across all crates that stores which grid cells are already filled. And lastly, it's this tile size uh, and half style that define the snapping behavior. So moving on to the functions, we have the first function, which is ready. So this function ready set up a crate and mark its starting position as occupied and determines the tile size. The next function is input event. Input event handles mouse clicks. So when the crate is pressed, it is freed from its old cell and follows the mouse cursor. When released, it checks if this new position is valid. If it is valid, then it updates the occupied cells earlier, this one, and calls the levels check crate position function. If invalid, it snaps back to the last valid position. Next, we have the process delta function. So this runs every frame. If it's dragging, it constantly updates the crate's position to snap the grid and change its color depending on whether that spot is valid. So that is when the crate turns red, depending whether where you want to put it is valid or not. This is defined here on the blocking tile maps, which makes the crate turns red when it encounters various tile maps like landscape, animals, crates, house wall, house deco, and house deco 2. This just makes it so that the crate would not be placed on random places. The next and last function is the function is colliding at position. So this checks if a position is blocked by either or another crate in occupied cells or by a tile in blocking tile maps that I mentioned earlier. So basically how it works is that the script ensures the crates can be moved smoothly, snap to the grid, and never overlap or sit on invalid tiles or crates itself. The next function that I have worked on is this script called the condition. This condition script manages the puzzle's win condition and its overall flow. So it has variables like target map, which references the tile map containing all target cells. So basically, this is the targeted cells in which the movable crates are supposed to be placed in. Then it has target cells, which stores all its positions where crates should be placed. It has field cells, which is a dictionary that maps target positions to the crates currently occupying them. And lastly is this variable all field, which tracks whether the puzzle is solved. Basically, all field is set as boolean false, meaning that all filled is not yet true and all filled is not yet filled at all. It only turns true when all crates have already occupied the targeted cells in their target map. The function ready clears any old occupied cells and loads all target positions. This check crate position is the core function. It checks if all the crates is in a target cell. If yes, then that cell is added the fill cells variable. If not, it's removed. Then it loops through all targets to see if they are filled. Then, if all targets are filled, it triggers the win sequence. This win sequence is stopping the timer, flickering the warning label, and showing success visuals, starting the flood animation, and finally calling this last function, which is level finished. This level finished function updates the global level core state to mark the level as complete and changes the scene as either the level select menu or the goodbye scene. So basically how this script works is it ties crates placements to the puzzle's success condition. It uses dictionaries, track filled targets, and triggers feedback and scene transitions when the puzzle is solved. Basically, it uses the core concepts of data structures and algorithms, which are arrays. And lastly, another one of the scripts that I've worked on is the warning script or the flicker label. This script handles visual feedback when the puzzle is solved. It has the variable of flicker active that tracks whether the flicker effect is running, which is currently set to false. It has functions like ready, which makes it visible or not visible. The start flicker function that makes the label visible sets flicker active to true, and as well as calls the do flicker function. It also sets a timer for 3 seconds, after which the flicker stops and the label hides again. This do flicker function creates a tween that animates the label's transparency back and forth. That's what makes it flicker. It calls itself again, creating a loop until flicker active is false. So basically how this whole warning script works is that the script provides a reusable flicker effect that signals success. It's modular, meaning you can trigger it from anywhere in the game. So basically, sir, those 3 major scripts are what I have contributed to the game and is also one of the backbones of the game's system and how it all smoothly flows and how the game usually works.